Hello, sweet friends, and welcome to The Way Through. I'm your host, Bonnie Worth, and so grateful to have another opportunity to sit in your presence and take time with you today for today's conversation. Really looking here, in terms of overcoming obstacles. We all understand and know that, challenges are a part of our everyday life. And none of us goes through life unscathed or doesn't have something we need to contend or deal with. But knowing that how we respond to those situations as invitations can make a complete difference in terms of how we not only navigate it, but of course, how we look at what manifests as a result. Of course, through the show, I'm always looking at what are the patterns, what are the things that are keeping us blocked, the barriers and ways that, that kind of orchestrate some of these difficulties and placing all of us, you, me, and everyone who tunes in all the time, back into this scope of, yes, we are human, we have these challenges and difficulties that take place, but how can we look to move and look at co-creating with the universe and starting to move beyond maybe some of the ways that we believed our circumstances or our life was destined to go, and really bringing in a different and maybe more insightful or hopefully inspiring perspective to help you navigate whatever is coming up in your life. Today, really looking at these challenges. How do we overcome? How do we find our way through? Because it can feel like sometimes, and especially if one thing goes wrong, it can feel like we have a multitude of things that follow suit. I was talking with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and she made reference to it as being a big boulder. It's like we've got this boulder that's holding back. It's kind of the block and the barrier. We go to remove the boulder and everything else comes tumbling down the hill all at once. So I really love that analogy because it really does explain, kind of really highlights and explains what it can be like when we are in the scope of challenges and difficulties in our lives. We can often, based on our human condition, believe that the circumstances really are dictating our fate. And this is where we begin to look as why you're tuning into the show. It's about really understanding that deep well of strength, that capacity that we have within the scope of who we are as human beings, but more importantly, capacity we have when we come into alignment with our higher self, when we begin to engage in practices that contribute to our lives in a positive way, knowing that like attracts like. And when we look at the positive action will always begin to bring or reap and reward some of the, what we could say, the positive results. But it's more than that. We've got to look at our inherited conditioning. We've got to unravel some of the belief systems and things that keep us in what can feel like a perpetual state of being stuck or being challenged, or all of these, the boulder was moved and now all these rocks are coming tumbling down the hill. One of the things that we look at in terms of our human self is this capacity of resilience. Now, this resilience gives us the way in which we can transform our situation and circumstances. And now, for those of you who are tuning into the show for the very first time, hello, welcome. I'm really glad you're here. And of course, for those maybe who have been a part of the conversations up until now, I really encourage you to go back and listen to a previous episode that I did called Authentic Resilience, because this is exactly what I'm speaking about here today as well. Again, when we look at what is not just the aspect of our human condition, where resilience is this ability just to bounce back, suck it up, pull up our socks and keep going. There is an avoidance here. This is where we begin to deny the problem, deny our emotions or the impact that the situation has had in our lives. So we begin to suppress or stuff it away and ignore that it had any impact whatsoever. Yes, we have a capacity to keep going, to trudge through and make our way. But what happens when we don't really give presence to how, what happened, how it made us feel, the impact that it's had? It only means that we're going to be triggered in some way in the future, where we are now invited to take a look and heal something that may be coming up for us. Whatever we've avoided can only be suppressed for so long until the body starts, saying, I've held on to this, and now it's time for you to do your part. So when we understand, this authentic resilience is this ability to to really heal our stories, to heal the impact of experiences, and we cultivate a stronger state of being, and we cultivate that stronger state of being from that connection to our higher selves. And that's when we really begin to tap into our inner power, and the inner power, which is so essential in navigating, the myriad of we'd say hurdles and challenges that come up and along the way. When we look at understanding, this, life and its challenges and how do we overcome, one of the things that we begin, or the invitations that sit there, is this: to begin to look at how changing our perspective can really help us to respond to adversity. Now, there is a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is an aspect of the ego. It is the low self, the one that feels triggered and hurt and wounded and begins to react to situations out of panic and fear, or a perpetuated state of feeling of, all things, bad things always happen to me. And it can feel like the rug gets pulled out and everything goes into crisis. And we begin to feel like we're victims of our circumstances. And so reaction is a natural part of our human condition. We react out of fear. We react out of anger. We react out of feeling powerless or even hopeless when circumstances really feel like they're enormous, like these hurdles just feel insurmountable. Whereas when we move into understanding from the scope of connection to the higher self, now we get into a place where we're able to respond to adversity. So when we encounter difficulties, that instinctual part, where, as I said, the instinct of the human that we are, really sees all of these obstacles as threats, and that reaction generates all those feelings that come up. And whereas when we move into a place of connection with the higher self, we're now in a place of empowerment. That's really where what opens the door to the authentic resilience. So here we go into this place, instead of at the low ego state where we're saying, why is this happening to me? Why is this, I can't handle anymore? Or we get discouraged or upset by it. When we are in this alignment, when we've cultivated this our authentic resilience, we're in a place where now we're positioning ourselves in response to any situation by saying, what can I learn from this? So it's not about the why, but it becomes the what. And you've heard me talk about that on the show as well. When we look at even healing some of our wounds, it's not why has this bad thing happened, but what do I require and need? This is no different when we see circumstances around. The challenges, even we can look at the global or world stage right now, and what the aspects of everything that's playing out. There's so many unknowns that are at the forefront for us, no matter where in the world you live, no matter what country you reside, or what the economic or political climates are for you. This isn't why is this happening. This becomes more of, why did this play out this way? Our power is not in asking why, but turning instead to going, what can I learn from this? What can I do today to increase the joy in my life? What can I do for others that will help and support and bring ease to maybe their suffering or their fear? So it's not a matter of the why concept. Why is low ego? What becomes the connection to the higher self? And that's where, again, through where we're able to approach life from a place of more empowerment, and really cultivating what is that authentic resilience. So there is just a subtle, first we look at the mindset. First, shifting perspective means that we're looking to flip our mindset. So instead of seeing roadblocks, we see them more as stepping stone. Every obstacle becomes a chance for personal development, a chance for to hone some skill or talent, a chance to maybe even unearth some talents or abilities we hadn't realized we had before. And so it's not, as I said, where our human resilience is more about adaptability. Our authentic resilience allows there to be a perseverance from a higher state. So we begin to view challenges through more of an empowering lens when we begin to flip our mindset about that, how we're looking at our problems, or and even how we're asking questions to God, to the universe, to our angels, around us, moving from the why connotations and really moving into more of curiosity and wonderment, and looking at what is the invitation, what can I learn, what is it that I need, what can I do to help someone. That's where empowerment comes from. So it really, in the mindset itself, it really puts us into a position where we know that irregardless, we've got the challenge, we're going to overcome it. That the past, our past will instill different beliefs that can make us feel limited in what is possible for us. Maybe we only believe that, we're not worthy of experiencing joy or happiness or ease in our life. And those become paradigms that we're operating in, paradigms of the not good enoughness that often plays out once we've been hurt or wounded, or we're stuck in a perpetuating story of suffering that really, I mean, it's a part of all of our human condition. But those paradigms begin to dictate and how, the results we have in our life. So as we begin to question and move from the why to the what, we now open up for some of those, for new paradigms, new ways of thinking, new belief systems. It becomes an invitation for something beyond what maybe we've been limited in understanding about ourselves or what can be possible. So when we look at this approach, it really allows us now to move into, not only more, positive experiences, or we could say more higher vibrational energy. I don't really believe in that positive or negative energy is good or bad. It just is. So what I always look at is what is the energy that's going to be of high vibrational state that's going to allow to have more ease. Here again, through our practices, through our shifts in mindset, the healing of beliefs, we begin to cultivate a higher frequency or a higher energy for living. Now, that in and of itself can make a significant difference in our lives, because now that too begins to impact our emotional and psychological well being. So when we choose to focus on even things, of life in more of a positive context, in the fact that there are blessings within obstacles, there's growth opportunities. These are invitations for me to know myself at a deeper level, or an invitation to heal something that's been blocking or holding me back. It really does begin to boost the overall mood, instead of succumbing to what is the stress and the anxiety. When we look at reframing our perspective and that mindset, we're now encouraging, or what would be cultivating, more clarity, more peace and calm, which means we're now going to be positioned to, look at even making decisions from a place maybe of greater ease for ourselves as well. So everything with the shift of belief systems, with changing the paradigm that has been dictating how we've been approaching our life or what we've believed about ourselves, we now move into, a place of more opportunities. There is an environment that we begin to cultivate energetically and otherwise, that is one of hope. It's of motivation. It's of, possibility, as opposed to feeling really stuck or stagnant and sitting in a place of suffering. Now, here again, community helps, support, helps in all kinds of ways. That's why I'm so grateful that you have a chance to tune into this show, because it's my way of being community for you. It's my way to help and support you. Now, I've had it said many, many times that, the things I share all sound really good and easy. And I talk about this alignment to the higher self and all of these ways, these choices we can make and shifting within the belief systems. It's not just mere talk. This is, and I please know and understand that this is about what I've lived through. This is about what I do on a constant and continuous basis in order to maintain my well-being. This is really looking at how I'm showing up in my life, how it is that I'm contributing to the world around me, and more importantly, how my thoughts about myself are contributing to the results that I have in my life. So it's constant. I've spoken lots on the show as well. You've heard me, and again, if you haven't, I invite you to go back to those episodes of really looking at what is self-responsibility? And self-responsibility isn't, just about I'm taking responsibility for every bad thing that's happened and it's all my fault. It's saying, no, I'm the common denominator in all of these experiences that I'm having. And so I want to take a look at what's going on inside of me, because our internal system, when we look at this, those inner beliefs, the paradigms, the wounds and the stories, and what we've neglected or tried to deny had any impact, has an impact. It is what is governing, or is the override system for the results that we have in our life. That's why, time and time again, when we look at self responsibility, this isn't about changing the past. It's about taking a look and saying, I'm the common denominator in this life. Wherever I go, there I am, which means that I'm a part of the problem. This isn't about, this isn't about an everybody else thing. It's really coming from inside of me. And that's a hard one to really wrap our heads around too, especially when we are more in a victim state of mind, as an example. When we're there, it really is easy. I mean, there are people who do terrible things. We see terrible things happening to others. We only need to turn on our news and our media to see the bad things that are happening to other people. So it doesn't mean that reality doesn't exist. It just is to say that our inner world can alter and shift our whole experiences with life. It moves us out of patterns and energies that really contribute to the aspect of our suffering spirit. Whereas when we begin to shift and do this inner work and begin to show up for ourselves and take a more direct role in terms of the results that are that are happening in our lives, this really allows us to become a participant in our life. We begin to co-create with the universe. We begin to shift and alter our experiences, within our relationships, within our careers, our jobs. We begin to shift our experiences with all of life and how we engage and interact. It really is the inner world is the expression, or the outer world is the expression of the inner world, what's going on inside of us. So it doesn't negate the bad things that happen, that other people are doing, the bad things that we see witnessing and playing out at those really, at the cost of what is the ego's satiation and the ego's need to persevere. This is, instead we want to understand, we have compassion, we recognize, and at least I recognize what's out there and what's happening, and the differences of maybe approaches to life, or even compassion for people that may not, exist within others. Where here instead I begin to look at, what can I do? What's my role? What do I need to shift and heal? How can I show up in my life, for myself, for other people, and to take on more of a co-creation role with the universe, which means it's not all just the cards that I've been dealt in my life. This is about, hey, hang on, I'm picking up the deck. I'm going to shuffle this baby, and I'm going to lay out the cards. And if I don't like how they lined up, I'm going to pull some of those cards and reshuffle things again. It's knowing that irregardless of what's happening, we ultimately always have a choice in in what we say, a choice in what we do, a choice in our, within our own life and healing journey as well. So self-responsibility really puts us back into control in our lives, and not from an egoic state, but from a state of empowerment, from that light that exists inside of us, that power that exists, that part of us that is divine, that is holy, that is of a resonance of a higher state of being. So as we look at doing the deeper work, that's really what we're doing. We're cultivating the authentic resilience. We're looking at the power of our choices. We're making a connection with the higher self, but it takes work. Each and every one of us is responsible to ourselves and for the results that play out in our lives. Yes, we can be a victim of circumstance, but that circumstance is an invitation towards that connection with our higher self, the invitation invitation towards a connection with our higher power, whether that be, God, source, the universal mind, whatever the divine intelligence, whatever those words are that really align with what your unique truth is. But all of this is invitation. It's to, we look at the karmic atmosphere. We can look at what we've inherited, our inherited conditioning, based not only in terms of what we've inherited in this lifetime from, our ancestors, but what we've carried over from other lifetimes that needs to be addressed and needs to be resolved. And we've got to look at what's our role, what's our responsibility in terms of all of these facets, not just these bad things that are happening to us in our lives, but the conditions around that, the conditions based on what we've inherited, the conditions of our belief, and more importantly, the conditions of our choices as well. So here is where community is, of course, these kinds of conversations every week taking place, because this can be vital in helping us. And I know it certainly was for me, was listening to people who had walked the journey, people who had taken the path, people who were showing up every single day in their own lives for themselves in that way, as a way to, really support what is this reframing process where we're vulnerable and sharing challenges and our stories, and taking, what is, we can look at someone else's external world and we think, wow, they've really got it all together and look how happy they are and everything. But it's through the challenges and through the stories and through the vulnerability that we begin to forge just a recognition that we're not alone. We're not alone in this journey. We're not the only ones who feel this way, that our struggles, every single thing, is a part of our humanity, and that we're all human beings. We absolutely are. But inside of us, that there is a being that is looking to be expressed. And so when we have conversations like this, we can gather strength from each other through shared experiences, shared emotions. Our stories might be different. The things that happened may be different, but the impact of those experiences is a very common thread that we all share at our core as humans. So, here again, community is everything. This is, for me, it was listening to not just, the support of friends and family. Sometimes, I mean, that's good, and I don't want to negate that whatsoever. But when you understand that when we're all in the same conditioning, that sometimes we can't be that support for others. So finding the people, find your network, find the people who can inspire you and light you up, so that you can begin to look at these things that are happening, these adversities, in a new light, which of course means that now there's opportunity to explore some different approaches or paths that you may not have considered based on what would have been that conditioning, that shared conditioning within friends and family. We attract to us, like attracts like. We attract to us friends and community for where we are in terms of our belief systems, in our energy, when we can say our vibration, when we look at our wounded state versus our healed state. There's different energies of attraction within the universe that bring people for us. And this is another way. This is saying, I love my family, I love my friends, but there are, that changes. And I think one of the hardest things, we look at taking the route of doing the healing work and in personal development, is that the friendships change, the circles transform, and some of the people who used to be close at one time maybe aren't close anymore. Now, there's different reasons for that. One is because of our own evolution, our new understanding of self, the cultivation of not just the authentic resilience, but that connection to the higher self, where it now becomes a way of being as opposed to something we're striving for. And so that's a different energy, it's a different attraction factor. So we fall out of alignment with other people. Now, that being said, and hang on one second, I just need to cough. Excuse me. That being said, we also attract new people into our lives, which makes it easier for us to, get to know ourselves at a deeper level, but of course explore some of the other possibilities that are out there. Now, we also have to keep in mind, the other part of this is that some of those other friendships or even familial connections were a part of soul contracts. And those soul contracts, why relationships change and why we go out of alignment with certain people, once we begin our path to healing, and we begin, putting things into practice for ourselves, that when that self responsibility becomes a way of life, one of the reasons, people can fall away and things can get disrupted is because the soul contract has come to completion. They were apart. We had a contract, an agreement before we even incarnated, for us to be involved in each other's lives, to be participate in each other's suffering, to contribute to what was the state of mind, the experiences, the resolving of the karmic information that needed to be resolved. And then when we take action towards this personal responsibility, that as we're healing on those deeper levels, we're resolving that, which means we're finishing the contract. So very often when people fall away or out of alignment in our lives, it's simply because the contract has been completed. What we agreed to before we incarnated has come into closure. And as a result, now new people come into our lives, which are, we could say, higher level contracts in helping and supporting us to as we continue to move forward. You see, this is all a divine plan. This has all been set up before we were even born. But when we get into the experiences of life, it can feel really, I mean, it's difficult, it sucks, it's challenging, it's upsetting, and we don't sometimes even realize that there's more to the story that we're telling ourselves. So we have to, that's again why we want to look at shifting the story, changing the story from mindset, perspective, beliefs, the paradigms, taking a look at all of that so that we can begin to look and say, this is what's going on. This really begins to bring in the why that we were searching for when our ego was in crisis, right? It's like then the understanding, now the awareness starts to show up for us. So, and again, it's all because we asked what we could do instead of why. And eventually, over time, it all begins to make sense. So yes, incorporating this, being mindful about our thoughts, shifting our perspective, being able to alter, our thoughts. Every thought has a feeling attached to it. So when we have a high vibrational thought, we're going to have a high vibrational emotion that's going to be charged with it. When we have a low vibrational thought, well, that's going to have a low vibrational experience or feeling that accompanies it. And so it's just to understand that this is how we all operate, and this is without judgment. It's just the awareness that says, I'm going to, to shift the limiting beliefs, to change the perspective or attitude, which again kind of shifts out of that unpredictability place and back into what is the positive aspects in our lives, the blessings we have, the support systems we have around us, and again learning or unearthing what our strengths and talents and abilities maybe we hadn't really recognized as were there in the first place. Now, one of the things that has helped immensely on my journey, and it's still something I do to this day, it's one of the things anyone who coaches with me, I take them through this, is recognizing that gratitude is an immense practice that can really take us out of this adversity and transform not just our mindset, but the energy of our lives, the frequency of what we are projecting or expressing into the world around us. This is again where your vibe attracts your tribe. It goes back to what I said earlier based on those soul contracts and the low frequency versus the high frequency. And so gratitude is a great way to begin to nurture and help to raise and bring us into connection with the higher self. For me, I always say that gratitude was such a big factor. It was a part of what saved my life. It took me out of what was my suffering state and feeling like all of these bad things that were happening to me. My whole world was obscured in the sense of what was hardship and suffering and nothing working out, and not, it was really in a poor me syndrome, all these bad things that had happened to poor little old me, and I felt was very victimized, which means I didn't really look at the world around me as having anything good about it. It was just, I was on autopilot trying to find my way through, doing the best I could, like so many people I know in the world who go through, this exact thing, that it wasn't something that I even concentrated on or looked at. I just, maybe in some ways, like what can happen often is, just taking for granted the good that was there, but not really paying attention to it, which means whatever, here again, in understanding how the universe works, whatever we focus on is what we create. And so when we think of being a conscious co creator, this is now recognizing, and I look back now, it's like I was not focusing on the good in my life. I was only focusing on the problems, what was wrong, my pain, my suffering. I was caught up in that cyclical nature of it. Now, don't get me wrong, we have to look at the pain and the wounds and the suffering on our healing journey. It's just that we have other things that can help and support us so that we are offsetting the tendency to get back into the cycle of that pain and suffering. We've got to acknowledge it and heal it. We need to feel it to heal it. But we move forward and we apply other strategies and other things to help us to cultivate a higher frequency of energy or a higher vibe in the world, which again helps to alter and shift the results that we have happening in our lives around us. What manifests begins to change. And really, when we think of gratitude, it's a simple shift. It's a simple shift where we go from a focus of what is scarcity to a focus of abundance, from a place of feeling victimized and in that poor me syndrome into a place of feeling like we're worthy and we're deserving in our lives. And so that can alter and shift our overall well-being, and it also opens us up to new possibilities and new solutions, even in the mix of challenge. When we are regularly expressing gratitude, it's helping to reduce anxiety, it's helping to alleviate the depression that we can often find ourselves in. It really helps to improve not just our mood, but of course our overall health. So it really is, about appreciating the simple joys, but a simple joy or a simple blessing in a very meaningful way. And so it's not just a aspect of what is just from the mind, from a logic or a just an idea of what we're grateful for. It's not, it's about looking at cultivating the not just a positive state of mind, but the bolstering of those higher frequency emotions that helping to raise us up. And every time we express gratitude, we are mixing and moving through a sense of interconnectedness with the universe. It is allowing us to begin to alter and shift, as I said, the results that we are having in our lives. It helps to, the more we seek our gratitude and we start to recognize the universe, we're changing our focus, which means the more that the universe brings forward to us, more to be grateful about in context. And so we begin to move out of what has been the poor me syndrome and these bad things that have happened and all of these challenges that are on my doorstep and all those, all those rocks that are falling down the hill. And instead it positions us to now begin to, pick up the bowl, just toss the rock away, because we have so much to be grateful for, happening at the same time. And that is a massive shift. It's a shift within our belief systems, it's a shift within paradigm, it's more importantly, it's a shift within energy. And that energy, like attracts like, which means now we start to call forward. We're in a higher frequency, or we have a higher energy about us. There's a different vibe that's going on, and we begin to attract or magnetize the answers to our prayers, the things that we've been looking to have in our life, whether it be, from, I don't know, a new job, a new house, a new car, or to other things, the healthy body, the healthy, respectful relationships that we've been craving. Everything is about frequency. Everything is energy. And when we understand that these practices are about cultivating an energy and a frequency that bring us into alignment with the very things we're looking to manifest. But more importantly, these are the practices that bring us into alignment with the higher self that knows that they're worthy, the higher self that knows that of the gifts and talents and abilities, the higher self that knows that there is no condition in the world around us that is a challenge. The higher self that says, I've got this. I was expecting this to happen in this lifetime. It's a part of my soul contract. And so what can I do to overcome this? What solution is there? What action can I take to nurture myself or my well-being? What needs to heal? That, what's stopping or preventing me? What block or barriers coming up? What do I need to take responsibility for here in my life? So it really helps to, gratitude is a massive shift within a frequency. It's one of the highest vibrational frequencies that are out there, that helps to position us where we can now make choices that are in alignment, that will enhance the well-being of our life. And when I talk about how well-being, it's not saying that we're all sick and unhealthy. It's just there's always an aspect or a way for us to increase what is, even how good we feel, how happy we are, how much joy is in our lives. So when I say well-being, it's the wellness, this reservoir of wellness that is available to all of us through the connection of the higher self and through the energies that we're cultivating, and what it is that we're attracting into our lives. The law of vibration is dictates to us that whatever we're vibrating at is what we're attracting into our lives. So the work in taking responsibility, in shifting the limiting beliefs, and altering the paradigms of considering the inherited conditioning, and looking at taking action through our choices to heal what's impaired inside of us, or the action in terms of offsetting, we could say, within the karmic aspect of things, of increasing what is the good juju that we're putting into the world. All of those things become what contribute to creating the frequency and vibration. And vibration is what attracts. It's not, you might have even heard through different things, a lot of people talking about the law of attraction. Yes, there's a lot, there are many laws within the universe. The law of attraction is a small part of things, what we're attracting into our lives, but it's not the governance of it. Our vibration is. It's the law of vibration. So we look at doing all of these things in order to, when we think about overcoming obstacles, it's about what practices are we implementing? What action are we taking towards shifting our vibration, so that we begin to alter and shift the experiences we're having with all of life. The higher the vibration, the higher the what I want to say, the experiences we have in our life. It doesn't mean the higher vibration, the more positive your life is going to be. No, not at all. We're human, which means that no matter how high your vibration gets, you're still going to have challenges. You're still going to have things that are going to come up and bring you back into, I want to say, the smack from the universe in terms of reality, but reality not as a way to stop or halt us from having a higher experience of life, but it's almost like a reality check, which is the check in with yourself. Check in with yourself, because this is still what else needs to be healed. What else is possible for you? What else haven't you acknowledged, or what is coming up that maybe now you're in a place to be able to deal with, to feel through, to heal inside, so that you can receive what you've been asking or praying for. The law of vibration is about the increase of our receivership, what we're going to receive. This is no different. I talk about this with the students who train with me in terms of developing their mediumistic abilities. This is here again where we look at the energy around us, which creates the density or the veil. The more that we shift and alter what's going on inside of us, the more that we expand our field of receivership, the more that we can receive through our communication with the non-physical world, or the answer to our prayers, whatever it is. But to understand all of this is about vibration. And it is, we've got to look at adopting healthier routines in our life. What practices help us to sustain or cultivate that feeling of ease or well-being in our lives? And again, we're always looking to increase well-being. It doesn't mean suffering doesn't exist. It just means within the suffering, there are invitations. And so we look at what action can we take, what choices am I making, what are the things every single day that I can do to support myself, not from a place of being selfish, but a place of saying I'm worthy, I'm lovable, and that I'm taking responsibility not just for what manifests in my life, but more importantly for how I'm showing up to those around me as well. Doing my part to ensure that, I'm doing the best I can at any single day. It doesn't mean that every single day is easy, even though I'm in a higher frequency or vibration. It's still going to attract, it still is going to bring up the shadows, the dark places, the shadows even within my own self that need to be addressed and healed through. So we've all got our work to do. We truly do. But to understand, all of it is about cultivating what is a frequency and a vibration that allows us to experience life or alter how we've been experiencing life, but we have to be willing to put in the work. Right? We have to. And so, what is that work? Well, I want to leave you with this here today. I want to bring up this is a practice that I coach. I've, presented at retreats. I have been applying into my own life for about the last 20 years. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean every single day for the last 20 years, but for the vast majority of those days for the last 20 years, and it really is looking at, and I want to challenge you with this. If you're looking to really begin to alter and begin to shift how you feel, to begin to look at, okay, there's some obstacles and things here. And instead of getting derailed and falling into hopelessness or or those patterns of anxiety, to offset the anxiety and the fear that might be coming up for you, or even looking at what step can you begin if you've been feeling depressed and you've been certain as to what step to take or how to feel better. It can feel very hopeless when you're caught in those states. And trust me, I've been there. I know that suffering well. So one of the things, as I said, for the last 20 years has been looking at cultivating my gratitude practice, but not in the way that is just making a list of things. And I want to say, which is a more of a logical approach to gratitude, but really sitting down and every single day writing out what I'm grateful for, and at least 10 things through a conversation between myself, the universe, through what was the higher power, through God, through the connection to the divine, where I sit down and just begin to write about my blessings. I write out 10 things. You can list 10 things and then write about all of them, or as I do, I just sit and write, and I make sure that I'm talking about 10 things every single day that bring me joy, that I'm really grateful for, that help it to enrich my life in some way. And I write it out. And the reason you don't want to just make a list here, you just don't want to identify, oh, I'm grateful for, my kids, I'm grateful for my husband, I'm grateful for my health. Why are you grateful for it? More importantly, what does it do for you? Which means, how does it make you feel? You really want to tap into creating what is a positive energy or a higher vibrational feeling or emotion behind that gratitude. So sitting with that and taking 20 minutes, what's 20 minutes out of your day? 15 minutes, take 10 minutes, whatever it is, take a few minutes every single day to really give yourself a chance to reflect upon your life and consider what the good that you have already. Refocus your mind, refocus your energy, show the universe what it is that you are looking to shift or receive in your life that maybe you've been living in contrast with. So just take time to sit there and write about 10 things. Don't just list the 10 things. Get emotionally invested in those 10 things. You're going to see that not only are you beginning to cultivate this day after day after day, you're cultivating this energy. You're beginning to cultivate more gratitude. You're going to start to see more and more blessings begin to show up, which means you're going to have more and more to write about. So it's beautiful how it works, but it doesn't stop there. Here's the second piece to this. Every single day, once you've gone through and you've written about everything that you're grateful for, you've cultivated that higher frequency or higher vibrational experience for yourself. And you're going to tell, you're going to start to feel better. You're going to start to feel more at peace. You're going to feel more excited about your life. Things are going to start to alter and shift in a very short time. In fact, I'm going to say within 4 days, you're going to begin to see a difference in how you feel. And then once you've done that, once every single day, once you've written it all out, you've scripted for the universe everything that you have to be grateful for, and you've cultivated all that beautiful energy behind it through your emotional state. The next thing to do is to sit in presence and send love. Send love to 3 people who you're angry at, who maybe 3 people who have hurt you, 3 people who you don't like. We all have that. We're all human. So you can't tell me that there's nobody in your life that you don't, you're just like, oh, I just love everybody. No, you don't. You're human. There's people who annoy you. There's people who upset you. There's people who have hurt you. And so in this practice isn't just about, sitting just here in the state of just intentionally sending love and light. I really encourage you, drop into your heart, place your hands on your heart, bring the person to mind, and imagine for yourself energy from your heart going to their heart, and just send love to 3 people in that way. And then once you're done, just once you're done sending the love, just take a moment to close your eyes, or stay in that with your eyes closed if you've been doing it that way, and just sit and just allow yourself to meditate for 5 minutes. What does spirit need to tell you today? What is it that your angels want you to know? Is there something that God, your higher power, is looking for you to understand? What is it for you in this day? And make yourself available. Make yourself available to receive some insight, some guidance, an aha moment, something that is going to help to really offer encouragement and to help you really have what we could say is a communal strength in the face of whatever adversity or challenge is going on in your life. You're going to see, sweet friends, that as you begin to take steps, it's a small step every single day. And some days there can feel like there's some more to be grateful for than others. And that's just fine. This isn't about anything that's happening in our life, does not define our capabilities. Instead, it's about helping us to cultivate this foundational energy, this foundational connection to the higher self, to begin to know and understand the strength, the ability that we have that deep inside of us, rooted in something greater than who we are or who we believe ourselves to be based on the conditioning. It's meaningful change, but it's without us, nothing else, nothing in our lives can change. So we need to get involved. We need to take action, and we need to understand that we become the agents for the transformation. We are the agent for transformation. It all happens inside of us, which means that in the scope of any adversity, that when we consider the challenge in front of us, there is indeed always a way through. So thank you so much, sweet friends, for tuning into today's show. As always, incredibly grateful. If there is something about this episode that really inspired you, of course, I'd love to hear from you. Please do not hesitate to reach out. Or if you know of someone who would benefit from this conversation here today, please do not hesitate to share this episode. And more importantly, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform to ensure that you are always a part of the conversation. Thank you so much. God bless, and have a great week ahead. I'll be back next week. And until then, there's always a way through.